Oh my god, hey. Welcome back to my Stager YouTube channel. If you're meeting me for the first time, hello. My name is Mickey Jo. I'm obsessed with all things theatre. I am a theatre critic and a pundit and a YouTuber based here in the UK. And today I have a bone to pick. So it's award season right now here in the UK. We are approaching the Olivier Awards. They're going to be taking place at the very beginning of April. This, if you did not know, is the UK's answer to the Tony Awards. They are the biggest awards in the theatrical calendar in the UK, and I'm very excited. So the nominations came out recently, and I've been making a bunch of content about them. You will pretty soon be seeing my predictions that I sat down and filmed pretty soon after the nominations came out with my boyfriend Aaron, where we are guessing who we think should and will win in each category. Stay tuned for that video. I also talked through some of the individuals and shows that were snubbed in this year's nominations, and I did a YouTube live that you can still watch where I reacted to the nominations being announced. However, the more I talk about the Oliviers, the harder it is for me not to address the elephant in the room. Where is he? Hold on. It's the elephant in the room, everyone. It is, because the thing with the Oliviers that has become particularly difficult to ignore this year is that musical theatre as an entire concept feels unnecessarily sidelined. And for an awards recognising excellence in theatre, that seems like a very bold thing to say. My assertion here is that compared with Broadway and compared with New York, British theatre neglects and sidelines musicals and considers them less than, and this is reinforced by the way that they are awarded and recognised at the Olivier Awards. If you don't believe me, that's fine, but I'm going to prove it to you in today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my Stager YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming Olivier Awards coverage. I have so many things planned. And if you want to know my predictions for the Olivier Awards, then they are already live for my YouTube members. Click on the link in the description. It is £2.99 a month to gain access to a bunch of exclusive and early content. Now, let's talk about why the Olivier Awards hate musicals. So on the face of it, when it comes to categories for the Olivier Awards, you have Best New Musical, Best New Play, revivals of each, you have acting performances split evenly between plays and musicals, and then you have the creative categories like director, choreographer, set design, lighting design, costume design, which are shared between the two. That seems pretty fair, right? Wrong. So my first issue is just with the way that these categories are named. So you have Best New Play and Best New Musical. Absolutely fine. Then you have Best Revival. Literally, the category is called Best Revival. And this makes you wonder, best revival of what? A play or a musical? Well, for some reason, play is considered the default. Best Revival means best revival of a play. Best Musical Revival, meanwhile, is for the musical revivals. So you have Best Revival and Best Musical Revival. It's a clarification. It makes it feel less than. If you think I'm overreacting to this, it carries on. Best Leading Actor. That's the name of the category. Versus Best Leading Actor in a Musical. Best Leading Actress. Best Leading Actress in a Musical. Best Supporting Actor. Best Supporting Actor in a Musical. Best Supporting Actress. Best Supporting Actress in a Musical. The acting awards in a play don't have in a play tacked on the end of them. They are just considered acting, but acting in a musical is classified differently. And I don't think those musical acting awards should be titled any other way. It should be a great thing to be considered an actor in a musical, leading or supporting. But why can we not just call it Best Leading Actor in a Play? Why does acting in a play have to be considered the default? And if that weren't enough, it gets worse when you consider the nominees. So there has often been a little bit of a discrepancy as to how many nominees there are in each category for play acting versus for musicals. This year is a glaring example of this. In every single one of the play acting categories, there are 5 nominees. 5 nominees for Best Actor, 5 for Best Actress, 5 for Supporting Actor, 5 for Supporting Actress. In every single one of the musicals categories, there are 4 nominees. That means overall there are 20 nominations for acting in a play versus only 16 for acting in a musical. And this contributes to why we have seen so many terrific musical performances shut out of those acting categories. I'm talking about Jordan Luke Gage in Bonnie and Clyde. I'm talking about Amara Okarika in My Fair Lady. I'm talking about many of the other cast members in Standing at the Sky's Edge. I'm talking about Patrick Vale in Oklahoma. I could list you dozens of people that have been omitted from this year's list of Olivier Award nominees. Meanwhile, there's actually more than 20 individuals that have been nominated for their work in plays, because in the Best Supporting Actor in a play category. Not that it says in a play, but that's the default, as you'll remember. The entire ensemble cast of the play For Black Boys Who Have Considered Suicide When the Hue Gets Too Heavy has been nominated, and I'm thrilled for them. I think that's fantastic. I hope they win. But I had hoped for similar recognition for the amazingly talented ensemble of Newsies, who play the Newsboys. I thought for sure they could be recognised with a group nomination for Best Featured Actor in a Musical. Last year there was another group nomination for the 7 actors who play the tiger in The Life of Pi, and yes, this has also happened in the past for musicals. The cast of 6 were nominated jointly, but in a year where fewer musical theatre performers are being recognised than performers in straight plays, this just feels like adding insult to injury. I made a tweet about this, and it was put to me that there are only 5 nominees in an acting category when the nominations are so close that they have to be included. Now, for this to have happened in every single acting category in a play and not one of the acting categories in a musical, I find baffling. Not just baffling, I actually find it inconceivable. Statistically unlikely. Take your pick from these adjectives. But it's not just an issue for the performers, because at least performers in musical theatre get their own dedicated categories. What about the creatives? So the issue with having an industry and critics and an awarding body that seem to favour plays is that you then end up with these shared creative categories where the nominations are more inclined towards people who worked on plays than those who worked on musicals. For example, Best Director, simply Best Director, either of a play or of a musical. In this category, there are 4 nominees, and only one of these was a director on a musical. In this case, Robert Hastie, who directed Standing at the Sky's Edge. It's my opinion that this should actually be 2 different categories, because the work that a director does to put a musical together versus a play, they're such completely different worlds, they're completely different jobs, and the amount of moving parts you have to consider when assembling and curating and taking care of a musical versus doing the same for a play, they are completely different disciplines. It's almost like judging stage work and film directing in the same category. Like, they are just very distinct different things. Had we had a separate category for musical directors this year, Daniel Fish could have been nominated for his work on Oklahoma. This revival of Oklahoma has received 7 other nominations, but it is the pioneering work of the incredible director Daniel Fish that has made it such a notable production. So for him to be omitted and so many of his peers and his cast and for the show itself to be nominated in his stead feels like a glaring omission, doesn't it? It's actually worse in some of the other creative categories. So in the category of Best Sound Design, a category where you might expect musicals to dominate because the amount of sound they have to balance, where they have musicians and instruments and a greater level of amplification, you would expect musicals to dominate this category. Out of 4 nominees, only 2 of those are for musicals. In the category of Best Set Design, only a single nominee is for their work in a musical. In both of these categories, one of the musicals nominated was Standing at the Sky's Edge. I've mentioned this before, and while I love this production and I'm really rooting for it to win Best New Musical because I do think it's the greatest musical work of the year, my assertion is that it's being celebrated so much at this year's awards. It's the most nominated show out of any because though it is a musical, it very much behaves like a play. It has this incredibly strong narrative, this brilliant book by Chris Bush, and the music, which uses songs from the back catalogue of musician Richard Hawley, does not advance the score. It capitulates on certain dramatic moments, but it doesn't speak to the characters' specific desires in a way that a bespoke score for musical theatre usually would. This is very much a show that feels like a play at a venue, the National Theatre, that like to produce plays and don't like to make a habit of producing many musicals. In fact, I have it on good authority that there is a culture within the National Theatre that does not like to uplift musicals, and I don't even need to have been told that because it's evident from the way that they program their spaces. They're 3 different spaces, from how few new musicals and how few new British musical theatre writers we see and hear from. It's obvious how little the National Theatre care about musicals, which is ridiculous when you consider that the bulk of their Olivier Award nominations this year have come from a musical. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We move on to Best Lighting Design, where not a single musical has been nominated. Not even the revival of Oklahoma, that makes incredibly bold choices with its lighting, and is probably one of the most thrilling and provocative lighting designs of the entire season. Now you'd think it might get better where we move on to the writing categories. Unfortunately, this is perhaps even worse. So unlike the Tony Awards, there is no category at the Olivier Awards for Best Book of a Musical. The writers who write the script for musical theatre are just not acknowledged whatsoever at the Olivier Awards. It is not even recognised. And this year you have tremendous playwrights, Chris Bush and James Graham and many other talented book writers who have written complex and meaningful and excellent books for musical theatre shows. In both of those instances, I think that's the best part of those shows. The book is the strongest ingredient of the formula of things that has made up both of those musicals. I'm talking about Standing at the Sky's Edge and Tammy Faye in this example. But there will be no recognition for those writers because we don't have the category in which to award them. Standing at the Sky's Edge could win every single award that it's nominated for, and still Chris Bush would not be afforded the personal recognition that she so desperately deserves. I would go as far as to say if one person deserves to win an award for Standing at the Sky's Edge, it's the book writer Chris Bush. More to the point, I think we should be incentivizing great playwrights to write books for musical theatre shows, because so often we are seeing these great new shows with fantastic scores that don't necessarily have a strong enough book. And I think it's a great thing when playwrights collaborate with composers to create great, well-rounded musicals. Now, if those playwrights had chosen instead to write the best new play of the year, they would be up on stage accepting the Olivier Award as the playwright, because this is another thing I've always found puzzling. When a play wins Best New Play, the playwright traditionally goes and accepts the award and is considered an Olivier Award-winning playwright. But when a musical wins Best New Musical, it's accepted by the producer. And this is nothing against the producers of those shows. They do a tremendous amount of work. But why is it that the book writer of a musical gets so much less recognition? Why is the producer considered the most important person in the process of putting together a musical where they aren't necessarily for a play? Still, you would think that composers of musical theatre shows would get plenty of recognition, right? Wrong again! So though the title has been clarified somewhat this year, the Olivier Awards have for some time had this very puzzling category. It used to be something to the effect of Outstanding Achievement in Music. It's essentially a well done for making music happen on a stage award, because sometimes the nominees are composers of musical theatre scores, sometimes the band for a show is nominated, sometimes someone is nominated for their arrangements of pop songs into a jukebox musical score. So to put this into context, last year at the Olivier Awards, in the category of Best Original Score or New Orchestrations, the writers of the score for Back to the Future were nominated, as were the orchestrators of the score of Anything Goes. Similarly, the orchestrators of Bob Marley's catalogue of songs for Get Up Stand Up, that was actually the winner of the evening, as well as the composer of the music which underscores the play Life of Pi. Similarly this year, in the category of Best Original Score or New Orchestrations, only one original musical theatre score has been nominated, David Yazbek's score for The Band's Visit. Alongside this, we have nominations for the new arrangements on the revival of Oklahoma, which are brilliant. We also have a nomination for Standing at the Sky's Edge for the music team involved with that show, with adapting Richard Hawley's music to the stage. And we have a nomination for the orchestrations and arrangements of the score My Neighbor Totoro. So once again, a play is included in this category, a category that you would expect to be dominated by musicals. 2 years in a row, a play has been included as one of the 4 nominations. So not only are musicals underrepresented in the majority of the creative categories, but they don't even have all the nomination slots in a category for original score or new orchestrations, 2 years in a row. And I'm not taking away from the incredible work that has been done in these plays. However, I do not think that the composition of music and the writing of lyrics for an original score bear any kind of resemblance to outstanding orchestrations. These should absolutely be awarded separately. The fact that we have outrage about casting directors not getting recognised, and fair play to the casting directors who want awards recognition for the work that they do. It's incredibly important, pivotal work that they do within the industry. However, we still have such issues to fix when it comes to properly recognising the talent that goes into writing musical theatre and dignifying it with appropriate categories. This gets even more egregious when you consider who was shut out of a Best Original Score nomination at the Olivier Awards this year. I'm talking about such unknown talents as Frank Wildhorn and Don Black for their score of Bonnie and Clyde. I'm talking about Alan Menken and Jack Jack Feldman for their score of Newsies, not nominated at all on its UK premiere. And I'm also talking about Sir Elton John and Jake Shears for their work on the score of Tammy Faye. All of those legendary names, huge names, and the Olivier Awards does like to court a celebrity nomination. They like to try and entice the big names to come and attend the ceremony, to accept an award on their stage, to be part of the TV broadcast. So to neglect Sir Elton John, besides anything else, that just feels particularly foolish. Here's another category where musicals have been left out altogether. Outstanding achievement in an affiliate theatre. So this has recognised productions from venues like the Bush Theatre and the Royal Court, smaller venues that are considered affiliate theatres within the Society of London Theatre. This also includes the Charing Cross Theatre, where two amazing musicals were staged in the last year, Allegiance and Ride. These both generated a tremendous amount of buzz, had brilliant word of mouth. I loved both of these productions, and the fact that neither of them have been recognised does feel like a disappointment. Again, I'm not taking away from the brilliant other productions that were recognised in this category, but to have no musicals in a category that recognised 5 different productions in affiliate theatres is just crushingly disappointing. It once again implies that musical theatre is subpar and less than. Meanwhile, in the category of Best Theatre Choreographer, once again you would expect all of the nominations in this category to be for musicals, right? Wrong! Wrong again! While 3 of the nominees in this category are nominated for their work on musicals, you also have a nomination for the puppetry designer and puppetry director from the play My Neighbor Totoro. Now, it is absolutely correct that this individual be recognised and be nominated for the incredible, beautiful, and artistic work that they did on the puppetry of this show. I love puppets. I love puppets in theatre. I loved the puppets in this play hugely, and it's like obviously awards worthy work, absolutely incredible. But I have this very real fear that it's actually going to win this category and be awarded for puppetry direction amongst tremendous choreography, and it does take away from the ability of choreography to be recognised. Arlene Phillips is receiving a Lifetime Achievement Olivier Award this year. Is that to make up for the fact that she really ought to have been nominated in this category for her brilliant work re-choreographing the Grease revival? When it comes to this category in particular, time will tell. So I hope that's illustrated a little why I feel that musicals are being unfairly maligned when it comes to Olivier Award nominations. And as far as the night itself goes, when you watch the ceremony on TV, you will see various musical theatre performances, because that's what's going to pull in the ratings. That's what keeps people entertained, not only at the Olivier Awards themselves, but throughout London's theatres. When various different establishments have had their Arts Council funding cut, many of them have talked about having to make more commercial choices. What this translates to is more musicals, because they know that that is where the money lies. Musical theatre is hugely successful, and to think of it as being commercial and therefore less artistically rewarding is simply false. Moreover, what it is snobbish. And when you consider the contrast with the way that musical theatre writers and musical theatre book writers are nominated and awarded and recognised on Broadway with the Tony Awards and with the Drama Desks and with various other awarding bodies in the US, it goes some of the way to explain why there are so many more successful and recognisable composers working in the US. When I ask you to name American musical theatre composers, you could tell me not only Rodgers and Hammerstein and Stephen Sondheim, but also Jason Robert Brown, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Andrew Lipper, Pasek and Paul, Kitten Yorkie, Dave Malloy. Like there are literally so many names in my head. Alan Menken, for goodness sake, Stephen Schwartz. And many of these names will also be recognisable to people outside of the theatre sphere. When we talk about musical theatre composers in the UK, you have Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, and then you have the likes of Styles and Drew and some of their contemporaries, but mostly we have everyone else fighting for any kind of recognition. When pop stars and artistic directors with no experience of writing for musical theatre decide that now is the time for them to write a musical theatre score. Is it any wonder some of our best writing talent is moving to America to get recognition? A recent success story for British musical theatre composers has been Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, who wrote Six, but most of their recognition and celebration has come from the US, when they won the Tony Award for composing Six, and have had many opportunities over there. Immediately, they were asked to co-write the opening number for the Tony Awards. I don't believe that the Olivier Awards or UK Theatre has necessarily given them the same kind of level of opportunity based on their talent and success. We are not nurturing our artists, and it starts with things like this. I could go on talking about this for a very long time because it does just get bigger and bigger and bigger, but for now, that is all I have to say about the Olivier Awards neglecting musical theatre. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you found it illuminating, and I hope that it encourages you to advocate for greater recognition for musical theatre at the Olivier Awards and throughout the British theatre industry. This is not an issue that is confined to just this one awards ceremony. This is everywhere. So if you're even half as incensed with rage as I am about this, get out there, get on social media, and let people know how brilliant musical theatre can be. And not that I need to tell all of you this, but just go and support musicals in the UK and support new British musical theatre writers. They absolutely need and deserve your support. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with all of the Olivier Awards news, and make sure you keep an eye out for all of my coverage coming very soon. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm MickeyJoTheatre. Oh my god, hey, thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!